Welcome to Colonie TV, the governmental educational channel for the town of Colonie.
I'm Supervisor Paula Mahan, and welcome to Colonie Connect. Today, my guest is John Frazer, our Superintendent of the Latham Water District. Hello, John.
Good afternoon, Paula.
Welcome to have you here today.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about obviously, the Latham Water Department. And maybe we could get started by having you give us a little background on the department.
Sure. The Water District was formed back in 1929, so technically we're celebrating our 85th anniversary this year.
Wow.
But the Water District began in Latham. That's where it got its original name from, along Troy-Schenectady Road, some of the higher areas in that portion of the town near the Circle. And since that time, we've been extended 162 times, and we cover about 2/3 of the town. We have 23,500 service connections.
Okay.
And last year we delivered about 3.8 billion gallons of water to our customers for the entire year. We operate a system that includes 420 miles of water main, and we have a full complement of treatment processes at our water treatment plant down along the Mohawk River, supplying all the water, about 10.5 million gallons of water a day on average. And that peaks in the summertime as irrigation demands increase and pools are filled to as high as 21 MGD, 21 million gallons per day.
Well, we process a lot of water.
We do.
Yes.
We do.
Okay, so it's a very complex system between everything, between the plant, between the lines that have to extend throughout the entire town. There's an awful lot of infrastructure there, and we have to be sure that it's working properly. And I know in the winter months, that's when we seem to have majority of our water breaks, and our people are out there in the freezing cold making sure that they get that
They are,
fixed
and this year was so tough that we averaged more than one water main break a day from January 1st through the end of March. So our crews were out in that sub-freezing, often sometimes sub-zero temperatures, trying to get those water mains fixed as quickly as possible.
It's a very large system to maintain. Can you briefly describe the process that you follow to get the water from the source to the user?
Sure. We have a low-lift pump station along the Mohawk River. We also have wells along the Mohawk River that we use as our source of water. We pump that water from our low-lift pump station into our treatment plant, so those two sources are combined, and they both go through the full treatment process, sedimentation, flocculation first, sedimentation, filtration, and then we add chlorine as the final step to the process. Then that water is stored in clear wells, and then we pump from those clear wells through two high-lift pump stations that deliver the water to generally two sides of the town. We have one along River Road. We have another high-lift pump station at the Mohawk View Water Treatment Plant, and that water is pumped through those two stations to our storage tanks that you see along Route 7 or behind Town Hall. We have several water storage tanks in the system that help us maintain pressure during the high use periods during the day. So technically, we pump every drop of water we deliver to our customers at least twice, and we have a couple of distribution pump stations, so we actually pump some water 3 times.
From when you first pump the water into the plant to be purified and whatever, about how long is that process from the time it arrives there until it's ready to go out to our customers?
Well, it depends on the time of year. As flows increase in the summer, the water's moving through the plant much faster. But in the winter, it probably takes 12 to 24 hours for the water to get through the water treatment plant. But in the summer, it's only several hours. As we get to 18, 19, 20 million gallons per day, the water is racing through the plant pretty quickly so that we can get it out to the distribution system.
Okay. And you talked about the number or the amount that we cover in town, about 2/3 of the town. So how does that equate to how many customers?
It's about, if we consider the town of Colonie 80,000 people, we're probably serving a majority of that because most of the spaces that we don't cover in the town are the vacant land. So of 80,000 or so residents in the town, we're serving a majority of those customers through the 23,500 service connections that we have.
And how much do we process per year?
Last year it was 3.8 billion.
That's a
Well,
lot
we're kind of
water.
small when you consider New York City.
Well-
They deliver that almost on a daily basis. So they have huge numbers when you're talking about their system.
Well, we're happy being the town of Colonie. We don't want to be New York City, right?
Right.
That's
It's a good size.
That's a good size. We have a lot of projects going on, a lot of major
We do.
projects going on that we're going to be undertaking this year, or some may have already started. Can you just give us an idea of the main projects that we're focused on for this year?
Sure. I think 2014 is going to be a busy year for us. We've got a lot going on. Some of our residents down in the West Albany area may have already seen the start of one of our major projects, and that's the Sand Creek Road Reconstruction Project. Probably a classic public works project in that not only is the road in need of repair, but so is the water system, and so are portions of the sewer system. So while the road is torn up, we're going to be replacing the water main. The project runs from Norbrick Drive all the way down to almost Everett. The water main is going to be replaced from Everett to Norbrick. The road is going to be replaced from Norbrick to basically Russell Road. But we're going to replace all that water main. It's more than 4,500 feet of water main for us. The existing line goes back to the 1940s, its date of installation. So it's aged cast iron pipe. The new pipe is going to be 12-inch diameter, and it will be cement-lined ductile iron. So we should see an improvement in water quality in the area. We should see an improvement in flow in the area and pressure in the area as well. So that's a major project ongoing. That will run through the end of the year. So that is one of our significant projects for this year.
And in that project, you know, as you said, it involves not just the roads being paved, not just our highway department and the companies that are working with us, but also water and sewer.
And a portion of the sewer, yes.
So it's really a collaborative effort, a great opportunity to replace that aging infrastructure. It needs it desperately, and it seems like so much more of an efficient process. There was a lot of planning that went into this.
Correct.
You did presentations down at the West Albany Firehouse, so people could understand the process and really be preset for what was coming.
Right.
Regarding impacts on, you know, traffic patterns and what they would expect to see. And there's also work going on to enhance the drainage process through a porous pavement for the sidewalks.
That's correct.
That's another newer way of doing things.
Yeah, so people will notice a difference in how sidewalks look too. With the porous concrete,
Yes.
Obviously the water needs to pass through, so the pores of the concrete are a little bit bigger, so it looks a little rougher. But the impact of that is that the rainwater, any water that may fall on it, any ice that may melt, runs through the pavement and into the ground. And being that that's Sand Creek Road, it's all sandy down there, so that water penetrates deep into the soil and becomes part of the water table and doesn't run across the road.
Yeah, there are a lot of new ways of doing things that the results are so much better, and we can improve on a lot of things by using these new methods. So this is a great project to see all of the departments coming
That's
together.
what I meant by classic DPW project. If we were in a perfect world, every project would be done that way.
Yeah.
Whenever the road is replaced, all the water and the sewer mains would be replaced. But obviously funding has its limits.
Yeah.
But this project was one that the funding came together and the departments came together to do a project across many disciplines.
And you also have the Miller Road Tank project.
Yep, Miller Road tank was built in 1955. It's still in a useful life, but it hasn't been resurfaced in a while. We have had some interior coating problems with the paint on the inside of the tank. So we're going to be spending a little over $800,000 this year to recoat the outside and the inside of that tank.
Okay.
And there'll be some structural repairs as well. I mean, the tank has, with all the ice with the long period of time since the last painting of the tank. It is definitely in need of some, not only painting repairs, but there'll be some structural repairs on the inside as well.
And I mean, really, when you think about it, you're talking about infrastructure dating back in the Sand Creek area to 1940, this tank dating back to 1955. When you say it quick, it doesn't sound like it was that long ago, but that was a long time ago. I mean, these structures have been there a long time.
Right, and some of our water pipe dates back to the 1930s. So you're talking about pipe that really is beyond its useful life at this point. So we're doing our best we have a 5-year capital plan that we use to develop future projects. And assuming the funding is available, we'll take on as many of those projects as we can. We don't get to all of them, but we try to get to as many as we can with the funding that we have available.
Well, the 2014 capital plan, which is the money for our big projects, and we can project out a little bit into the future with those as we plan and we know what we're going to need. But the majority of the 2014 budget for the capital plan, it's infrastructure, improving infrastructure.
Well, the Sand Creek Road project was a significant project.
And that's where we need to be right now, though. That's what we need to be doing, because in every municipality, infrastructure is aging. And as we keep improving step by step, for the future, our infrastructure will be in a lot better shape. It's something that you don't want to wait till the very end and have everything at once that you have to do. So, planning these projects out ahead of time and hoping maybe in the future some projects can be planned the way the Sand Creek Road project is, and that's through a combined effort, a true DPW, as you say, true DPW project.
Right.
Because that is the most efficient way of doing it. So
Colonie is no different than any other municipality. The American Society of Civil Engineers rated all the infrastructure across the nation as, I think, a D-.
Oh, yeah.
So we are, and water got an upgrade from perhaps a D to a C-. So not just water, but all infrastructure is in need of improvement.
Yeah, and again, getting to that point of we know what we need to do, and that's the focus in our capital plan. But as you say, it's all over. So it's something that is going to have to be addressed for a long time in every municipality. Stoney Creek, a lot of people don't know that we own the Stoney Creek Reservoir. It's in the town of Clifton Park.
Correct.
And even though it's in the town of Clifton Park, we own it. And that was purchased a long, long time ago. I think it was when Bill Stanford was the supervisor. That was a long time ago. And it's a secondary water source for us. But again, there are the infrastructure there. We have to maintain that and make sure that that's working properly. It's a very unique piece of property. The reservoir itself, the acreage that's surrounding it. I think total it's about, including the water, is it over It's over 300.
Oh, it's
365 acres.
The entire parcel is about 973
973 acres.
About half of that is water.
Okay, 973. Okay, so the water is, that's the number I'm thinking of.
Correct, yes, you're right.
But it's an interesting area there. As I say, and a lot of people don't know that our secondary source is in Clifton Park. So there is some repair that's needed there. Can you talk a little bit about the repairs that are needed?
Sure. As part of the reservoir, to create the reservoir, the town had to build a dam, which was built between 1949 and 1953. And to take the water out of the dam, we have an outlet structure that has valves in it so that we can take water from various levels in the reservoir. The dam's about 40 feet high, 45 feet high in certain areas. So some of those valves, again, dating back to the early 1950s, are in need of repair. So we've put on our capital plan to repair those valves as well. That'll be underwater work. We can dewater the reservoir a little bit, but I think our goal is to have it all being done underwater. So it'll be some specialized work. So we'll start the engineering this year and hopefully have a bid ready to go late this year or early next year.
Okay. And we've talked about the Stoney Creek before because of its location in Clifton Park. At times, Clifton Park was interested in it for a more of a nature area, open space, that type of concept. And you think about the future when you talk about far down the road in the future. We often wonder, should that remain our secondary source, or somewhere down the road, do we plan for a secondary source closer to home? And that's something you have to think about as you move into the future, mm-hmm. or if if Stoney Creek is appropriate to handle our needs as we move into the future, and that's something to be seen. I don't know. I know we've talked a little bit about that. I know in the whole area, there's conversations going on about shared services and sharing ideas, and always water. When you get into water or landfills or things of that nature that the whole region needs on a daily basis and uses, what do we plan for the future? And that's just something for us to think about. At this point, Stoney Creek, obviously, it needs repairs, but it's sufficient for what we need it for.
It is sufficient for the time being as a backup supply.
Right.
I think, though, that we will probably soon initiate conversations with adjacent water suppliers. We can help adjacent water suppliers as well as a backup to their supply, mm-hmm. but areas like Albany, with a relatively stable supply, and Latham, a town of Colonie, could work together to have a backup to each. Mm-hmm. We each back up the other. Mm-hmm. That's an opportunity, and that is easier to do from a quality standpoint because you don't have to treat the water that's delivered between customers,
okay.
Because it's finished water from both agencies. So I think that may be one way we're going to be looking at developing a long-term
plan for
emergency,
yep.
long-term plan for backup supply, is to consider connections to some of our adjacent neighbors.
Mm-hmm. It's just there's always something to think about for the future. I mean, you're in one place in time, and you've got to make sure that it's going to last or do what you need it to do. Mm-hmm. And then there's always new technology that makes things more efficient, easier to use, and can help more people. These are things that you have to look at all the time. And this is one of those cases, as you say, as we move into the future, we'll probably have to look at that. And then you have the Mohawk View High Lift Pump Station upgrade and electrical savings. You talked about a little bit about that. Can you expand on that?
Yes. The pump station was built partially in the 1960s and upgraded partially in the 1980s. So it's old technology, old, large, inefficient motors, controls for the motors themselves, and pumps. So we're looking at changing out all those pumps, motors, and a lot of the electrical switchgear that makes those pumps run, mm-hmm. with new, more efficient energy saving devices, such as a variable speed drive. As opposed to a pump running at one speed, we have a device that will slowly ramp it up to speed, or we can adjust to meet pumping demands for that very period in time. Okay. The interesting thing about that is National Grid offers incentives for municipalities who want to do this kind of work because mm-hmm. it's easier for them when they're considering their grid to meet those peak demands in the summer when all that air conditioning
right.
load is on. That is also our peak demand, mm-hmm. because that's when people want to use water outside. So if we can shave some of those peak demands for them, take some of that the peak off of that real high demand in that mm-hmm. hot summer day, they want to pay us back to do that. And when we're talking about 400 horsepower motors as being our single high lift pump station at the Mohawk View Water Treatment Plant, mm-hmm. you're talking about a significant amount of savings and energy used, and savings that can be realized from saving that energy.
That's excellent. Yeah. So, okay. So we've got that on the agenda as well as some new improvements in the Vly Road area. Mm-hmm. That has to do with water. What is that? is that needed for the water pressure because there's not enough there for the new development?
Yes, correct. When the planners of the Latham Water District back in the 1920s chose the top of the water surface elevation in all of our tanks, so all of our tanks were the same elevation, they left a few areas of the town out in the western part of the town. Perhaps that's because it was Latham at the time, and maybe they didn't see expansion as far to the west. But for whatever reason, the areas in the western part of the town along Dennison Road, Vly Road, are very high in elevation. And the problem with that is, since our tanks are at a fixed elevation, the closer you get to that elevation in ground surface, so if our tanks are at 500 and you're at 400 feet, you only have about 30 psi, 30 pounds per square inch of pressure available at your house. So these developments are even closer to that 500-foot elevation. So what they're having to do is to install a new tank and a pump station to service that area of the town, including 3 new subdivisions at least. And it's our long-term goal to include some of the existing areas of the town that have relatively low pressure in that service area as well, so that they will see the extra pressure as well.
When do you anticipate that the tank and the pump station will be done there? Any idea?
The developer is in the process of acquiring bids from contractors to do the work.
Okay.
I believe his schedule is still to have the tank and pump station in operation next spring.
Okay.
Probably could have done it this year, but it's impossible to tank a paint that's outside in the winter. So he's probably going to have it constructed by the end of this year. Impossible to paint in December, January. So he's probably looking at having to paint the tank beginning April or so, April, May of 2015.
That's not too far off.
No, that's right. And then our goal would be a few years after that to begin planning the infrastructure to connect some of the existing areas of the town that have low pressure to that service area as well.
You know, as you describe the infrastructure and the improvements that are necessary, and you go back to those dates, you can almost follow the infrastructure and you can follow the history of the town.
You can.
It's interesting, you know, that connection. It's just as you're speaking, you know, you can see the years where certain things happened and as the town expanded.
The town used to be very agrarian.
Yes.
Even though it began to see development. Wolf Road used to be a little single or 2-lane road a long time ago. Actually, not that long ago, when the Colonie Country Club was still there. But I happened to, in some of my research for the American Waterworks Association, found a photo, an aerial photograph of the Loudonville reservoirs for the city of Albany. And in the background is the town of Colonie, and there are almost no trees in the town. It's all farmers' fields.
Farmers' fields.
And now you look at the same area, and the area's grown up. We developed into much less of an agrarian society, and Colonie is a perfect example of
Yes. So a lot of history there.
There is.
But, okay, we have to be sure to talk about fire hydrants, because this was the topic of conversation across the nation. And you really, through a letter, brought to the attention of Congressman Paul Tonko that there was an issue with one of the bills that were proposed for fire hydrants. And the end result is that you've saved millions of dollars for municipalities across the whole nation. And this is something that everyone appreciates. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that whole episode with the fire hydrants.
Sure. It was an interesting process. I'd never been through something like that before, but back in 2010, Congress passed a law reducing lead in water system components like your water meter or the curb stop or the shutoff that you have in the front yard, even your faucets in the house, all have a certain amount of lead in them because of the brass that's used to manufacture those devices. So in 2010, Congress passed a law and it was implemented. It was supposed to be implemented in January 4th of 2014.
Okay.
And everything was moving along. We started buying lead-free meters, brass components, in anticipation of the law coming to fruition. And then in October of last year, the EPA, by request, evaluated the use of fire hydrants and determined that because of the brass that's used on their internal parts, that they would be subject to this law. Now nobody, not the manufacturers, certainly not the water suppliers, were ready for that determination. So within 60 days, our inventory of 24 hydrants worth about $48,000 was going to become worthless. So through the Water Utility Council of the American Water Works Association and our state association, we began a letter writing campaign to Congress to attempt to get hydrants exempted from the law, because how often do you drink water from a hydrant? Almost never, if ever. So it was unrealistic to expect that, to have this requirement on the fire hydrant manufacturers and water suppliers to have to go out and replace their supply, that it would be ridiculous to have this requirement apply to fire hydrants, because there's no benefit. Nobody drinks out of it, so nobody's consuming that lead, the water that's touched those lead components. So we began a letter writing campaign, and it just so happens that Congressman Tonko, after reading my letter, decided to take up the law, and he created the Community Fire Safety Act of 2013. And in that act, he included hydrants as exempt from the 2010 law to reduce lead in drinking water. So, and then we were able to have Congressman Tonko visit us here in our garage. The law was passed unanimously by Congress.
Yes.
And the president soon thereafter passed it. So that beginning on January 4th, our old hydrants were still good. So for us, it was $48,000, but for somebody like the city of New York, who has 1,400 hydrants in stock, you can imagine that the expense to them would have been substantial.
Yes. Well, you should be very proud of that accomplishment, because you really helped greatly to make that happen, and to have it turn around as quickly as it did in Washington and unanimously approved. That's a feat in itself.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
how often does that happen? So you really did miracles there. So that was really great. But it was one of those things that it was so obvious, yet it's possible that without your efforts and the others that were working on this with you, if you didn't recognize this, it would have cost municipalities a lot of money. So we were just very proud of of what you accomplished there, and very proud to have the congressman here and have everyone working together to get this done so quickly. So that was really a high point. So thank you for doing that. And also, another achievement is Latham Water District is involved with the water tasting contest.
Yes,
and,
we are.
You won the best tasting contest in Albany County. What's next?
The next step is a regional competition. I don't know the date yet. The health department hasn't released that. Once the regional competition is concluded, then the winners of the regions go to the state fair in Syracuse later in the year. So yes, we were one of 6 water supplies that were taste tested in the city, downtown Albany, and we edged out Yola by just a few points, but nonetheless we did win the competition, and we're excited and pleased, and I think that's a tremendous effort on everybody's part at Latham Water to make those kinds of things and things here in Colonie a positive.
Yes, another achievement that we're very proud of. So congratulations to everybody there.
Thank you.
We're almost out of time. I understand the Water District's annual water quality report. It's available for residents. There are a few changes in the format. Maybe you can just briefly tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Back up to last year, we had to mail the annual water quality report out to all of our bill-paying customers. Again, in an effort to save money for water suppliers, we were able, the law was changed, allowing water suppliers to make their water quality report available online, but we still had to tell people that it was available online.
Right.
And we did that on our water bills for this year. Last year we tried to. The change in the law came a little bit late, so some of our customers had to get the water quality report. But this year we got the address on our bills in February, March, and April. So everybody's been notified, and they can go right to the town website. There's a link on the website,
Okay.
both on the front page right now and on the water section of the Town of Colonie webpage.
Okay.
All right. So that for us saved about $6,000 in mailing and printing costs for the annual water quality report.
You're doing well, John. Keep that going. You know, all these savings. This is what we're looking for, and it's amazing, the savings we've achieved just through people coming together with different ideas, and that's a perfect example. Quickly, again, because we're out of time, but we've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the town. Are we handling our water system well? Are we looking good for the future?
Yes and yes.
Okay. I like that answer. Excellent.
Well, when we built our treatment plant back when we expanded the treatment plant back in 2005, we looked to the year 2025 as a planning term. So we are in good shape through 2025, and obviously we'll begin planning soon.
Excellent.
If we need to for that period.
Excellent. That pre-planning is so important. I just want to thank you so much for being here today. There's certainly a lot more we could talk about, but we're out of time, so we may have to set up another session at some point in time soon. But I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. I want to thank your staff. A tremendous amount of work that is accomplished through the Latham Water District, and it's no easy task. So once again, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for tuning in to Colonie Connect.